Welcome to this week's Week in Review. I trust that I'll be able to provide you with a fact-based analysis and a biblical worldview on developments. In our church service yesterday, the pastor shared that he was speaking with another pastor in Florida who said that the pastor in a United Methodist church had invited a drag queen to come and give next week's sermon. You say, Larry, how can this be happening in our country? Well, we're being invaded. Psalm 79, verse 1, the psalmist cries out and says, "Oh God, the nations are invading your inheritance." And that's what's happening today. And it's not Jebusites and Gittites and all the rest of the parasites, but it's those under the guise, the innocuous, euphemistic title of progressives. They are the ones, globalists, socialists, secularists, Marxists, atheists, anarchists, that are working hard to not build America better, build back better, but to destroy this nation in its current form and our way of life and replace it with something that is so contrary to what our heritage and our history is all about. You know, I've had the privilege to go to Amsterdam. I've been to Holland. And when you look at our history, you know, it's amazing that when the Pilgrims came in 1620, and I've been to Massachusetts, I've been there to look at that Plymouth Rock. You know, John Robinson, what did they say? They said, we have a Mayflower Compact. And it was that we come for the glory of God and the advancement of the Christian faith. That's God's inheritance in this nation. And then about 10 years later, when the Puritans came, they wanted to establish what would be a city set on a hill, a New Jerusalem. Now people say, oh, this is Christian nationalism. Well, folks, I am very nationalistic. I'm patriotic, and I know that we have an inheritance and God has an inheritance in this nation. And we've got to be on our guard because we're under assault under that term of progressive. And the Democrats, they have a strategy. Now we have to wake up. We have to realize that we're living in a time that is really deadly serious. But a lot of people are not serious. They're not aware. We're not living in Jerusalem anymore. We're living in Babylon. And our actual way of life that has been blessed so by God as his inheritance here in America is under assault. Do you know that many years ago, Ronald Reagan made a statement? I'm going to put it and listen to it. I love these words. He said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same, or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States when men were free." We live in a deadly serious time, but people are unseriously alert. They're distracted. So let me tell you, the Democrat Party has a strategy, a plan, a playbook to bring about destruction to our nation. Let me run through what's happening. Number one, they promote a woke mentality. It says in Isaiah 5 that they call evil good and good evil. And that's exactly what is promoted by the Democrat Party when you look at the policies and the positions and you listen to what's being said. And it's dangerous. The other day, the First Lady, Jill Biden, literally said, all books should be allowed in schools. No books should be banned. Can you imagine that? Pornography. But folks, this is the mentality of those that want to promote a secularistic culture. You know, when the Pilgrims and the Puritans were here, they wanted a place that would be honoring of God. They came, what did they say? For the glory of God and the advancement of the Christian faith. And throughout our history, all but a few of our presidents were identifying as Christians. But today, you better be alert to what's happening. So they're promoting, number one, a woke mentality, and it's destroying our country. Also, they're promoting policies that are destroying the sanctity of marriage. In 2008, you may remember Rick Warren sitting there on a stage, millions watched, Barack Obama running for president, was asked about homosexual marriage, same-sex marriage. And what did he say? Well, he made his statement, and he made it clear. He said that I believe marriage is a union of a man and a woman that is sacred under God. And as a Christian, I do not support same-sex marriage. Once elected, though, he did what? he aggressively endorsed it, lit up the White House, and he promoted it. And that was the launch pad. That was a trigger point, because now we see everything that's gone on, the LGBTQ agenda, transgenderism, and everything in the schools. That was a turning point. And the Democrat Party continues to support this radically. What else? Well, the man in the White House, Mr. Joe Biden, he'll put on sunglasses. He's Cool Joe now. And what he does is he reads from a teleprompter, and he tries to tell us there's no inflation, there's no recession. He tries to tell us that the withdrawal from Afghanistan was a total success. Gas prices and some of the difficulties, they're all just temporary. And he tries to say the real problem comes from Trump. And he tries to say the real problem is Putin. And he tries to say the real problem is COVID. And in his recent speech at Independence Hall in Philadelphia, what did he outline? He said that there are these traditional Republicans, and they stand for making America great. And he said they're a threat to our democracy. And he said that they are extremists. They're semi-fascists. Can you imagine calling 70, 80 million people? This is the man that said he was going to unite the nation. But folks, what we have is a president. He got into office. He's the accidental president, and he promotes abortion. He said that he was Catholic, Nancy Pelosi, but he's a rabid supporter of abortion on demand up until the moment of birth. And this is what they want to promote in our culture today. We've got to be aware of what they're doing to destroy our nation. Also, it's not just the sanctity of marriage and the sanctity of human life. They're also working diligently in the area of what? Disrespect for life on the border. We see a crisis on the border. Are you aware? The official stats are 3.4 million illegal immigrants have come into this country. They're walking across the border freely. And these are individuals that are lawless. They're breaking our law. They're not respecting our laws. They're being encouraged to come. Mr. Biden, come get free health care. They're being shipped to cities in the dark of night. And we have terrorists. Over 61 have been identified. We have sex traffickers, cartels, people pushing fentanyl. Over 100,000 people have died in a year from fentanyl. And the target, who's number one, is those that are 18 to 35. And they're freely doing it. And then we have the violence in the cities. We have to recognize what's going on the border is an abomination. And it's tearing apart our country. Isn't it good that you see the governors of Florida and Texas? They're saying, let's allow 40 or 50 or so to go to Martha's Vineyard or some of these places that say, well, we're sanctuary cities and we welcome all the immigrants. Joe Biden said we can take 3 million of them, bring them in. Well, you know what's happening is now those, when they start to see a handful, oh man, they give them some Fruit Loops. And then what they do in a hypocritical way, they get them on the bus and get them out of their cities. They don't want them in D.C. They don't want them in the cities that are so-called sanctuary cities. This is a destructive path for America. Also, we see right now ongoing reckless spending in our country. Caving to the climate change, global warming, Green New Deal individuals, and that's the umbrella, the guide. Oh, we got to spend money because we only have 10, 15 years left. And what are they doing? They're bringing us not only into worse inflation, which is now over 9%, when it was 1.4%. There was no inflation under the previous president, but they're strangling our energy, gas prices going through up. You say, well, they're coming down. Well, they're tapping right now, this administration, the emergency reserves. But we have a president, again, he'll go on and he'll say there is no inflation, there's no recession. He's lying to us. And you've got to be aware this is propaganda. We're in a very difficult time, and we're going to face an Armageddon because of this reckless spending. It's not going to be, well, we spend all the money because then we're going to fight inflation. It's only worsening it, and you're feeling it when you go to the store. You know what I mean. Also, we're facing today not only this, but we're seeing those that are pushing climate change. And as a result of that, oh, you should get electric cars. And you should recognize that we just have to face these kind of situations today. And as a result of it, with hysteria and fear, people are being bamboozled and deceived, and individuals are bowing and caving to this, and we have to wake up. Another thing that they're doing to bring destruction to our country is they're promoting radical criminal justice reform. We've got to defund the police. Criminals, basically those that are out there, they're victims. It's a racist society. George Soros has spent over $40 million putting in office radical, so-called progressive district attorneys, and what? No prosecution, no bail, let them out. And as a result of it, what do we see? Escalating crime. Look what's happening in Chicago. Look what's happening in LA. Look what's happening in DC, in Baltimore, Baton Rouge. Folks, you may say, well, it's not touching me, but if we don't stand strong, it's only going to worsen. You say, well, Larry, what else is going on? Well, I would say this. We have to face the reality of this. Are you aware we're facing wholesale promotion of so-called voting reform? In other words, no ID for voting. We can't discriminate against people. And we have to have, free ballot boxes and harvesting of votes. And we don't need surveillance. This is discriminatory. It's racist. It's white supremacist. Folks, they're trying to do what we've seen in past elections. And you know what I'm talking about. And if we don't stand up and speak, this is part of their plan. Lax voting, and they'll say voter integrity. This is bringing destruction to America. Another thing is support for increasing what? Growing police state. You've seen it right now. We see what's going on with the FBI, the IRS, Department of Justice being weaponized, politicized. Look what's happened when you look at former President Donald Trump. How he faced such scrutiny and the Russian collusion hoax. And then what else? Well, it was Ukraine, that deception. And then, we have the January 6th Commission. They don't want him returning to office, and they will do anything they can. And as a result of it, we're seeing now, hire 87,000 more, IRS agents. And you're seeing rights being suppressed. You better be aware what's going on now. It's very dangerous. And then what else? I'd say one more. Let me give it to you this. Constant threat to our constitutional Second Amendment right to bear arms. We have a Democrat Party that as soon as there's a shooting, mass shooting, or whatever it is, we need to take away the guns. Well, the interesting thing is when you look at all of the congressional Democrats, they all have what? Armed security. Well, they're the elite. And this isn't a caste system. And so as a result of it, they try and they work at this nonstop. These are just some of the things that are going on, but they're bringing destruction to our country, and we need to wake up and be aware. Midterm elections are coming, and you have to pray. You have to vote. You have to educate people. I want to encourage you. You can go on Charisma News. You can go on WorldNet Daily and I'm on about 11 different platforms, and take the full article. I'm just giving you a flyover here, and pass it along. Share this video commentary so that people will wake up. Let me end by quoting something, because we're in a serious way, and an attorney from Cornell University Law School, he made a statement. Let's look at what he said, and I think this is so true. He said this: there is a thin line in society between food and anarchy, freedom and repression, liberty and tyranny, safety and street violence. It's thinner than we want to admit, and it's being pushed to its limits on purpose by ideologues. Those are the radicalized Democrats, globalists, Marxists, socialists, anarchists, who want to deconstruct our society, tear it down, and replace it. And that is a dangerous game. William Jacobson. I'll tell you, we're living in the dangerous time. We need to be aware. We can't just say, well, we just trust God that He's going to handle it all. We need to be salt. We need to be light. We need to be fervent in our intercession. We need to be active in voting and educating. Pass along the articles, the commentaries from us as watchmen on the wall. Oh God, our nation is being invaded, and God's calling us to respond.